Black Americans need to definitely delineate from Africans. Pan-Africanism is supposed to unite the Black world so that we can all have parity and equality in our relationships, whether it's Black people of different cultures and communities coming together or regionally within Black countries or in Black cities. The goal of Pan-Africanism is to do one thing: unite. However, the issue is if you lose your identity into people who keep theirs, you get taken advantage of. And this is the problem that the Black American community and many people in the diaspora, including Nigerian Americans, or Ghanaian Americans, or Caribbeans, face. Because again, once you grow up in a place, you're no longer that tribe and you're no longer a continental African. So you're trying to find your way. And we honestly believe that jumping into somebody else's community or assimilating with them is an automatic protection. But I'm here to tell you that it's not. Jumping into somebody else's community and assimilating with them doesn't help you. It actually hurts you. And assimilation can mean certain things, but in this case, I'm against it. And I'm gonna tell you exactly why Black Americans need to delineate from Africans when they move here. Delineation stops scams. Let me give you a real life example. I live in Uganda. I've been to Kenya, and I've seen successful communities in these places. And I want to refer to 3 communities that are African and 1 community that is Asian, okay? The Indians or the Asian communities, Somalians, Eritreans, or Ethiopians have a history, a textbook history of delineating, okay? Now, some people may look at this as being racist, as being isolationist. And again, if Black Americans were to do this, it doesn't have to mean the same thing that it could mean from these groups. But in the case of Somalians, Eritreans, or Ethiopians, they're connected by the same culture, typically the same religion, and then there's a level of trust within that environment. Okay, so typically what these groups do is they don't really interact with locals as much. And it's not because, in my honest opinion, that they dislike these locals. It is just because if they're gonna do business, they invest into their own community first, okay? So when they invest into their own community first, they are shielding themselves away from the problems or the chaos from the local market. This is different from Black Americans who come to Ghana or who come to Uganda or who come any place else, because many of us, we are coming, in like groups of, 3 or 4 or by ourselves. And so we're depending on people in the local market to do things for us. And, we have a higher chance of getting scammed. But what happens is these people build their communities inside out. So before they even come to Africa, they already have this community. So in this community, they're not going to have as many problems as somebody like myself coming over to Africa and establishing myself with a whole new community, a whole new language that I don't understand. All right. They build their own communities first. And then what they can do is they force these people in their community to be accountable. How many people have been scammed in Uganda or Ghana and somebody just tells you they're sorry? Because you can't force people to be accountable for things. But when it's in your own community, where can they run? Okay. 2, delineation forces leverage on the other group. I've seen this with Eritreans. I've seen it with Indians, and specifically here in Kampala. Okay. I've worked with Eritreans. They're excellent to work with. I've worked with Ugandans also. But Eritreans, in my honest opinion, are the masters of this. All right. They compete with you in the local market. All right. Same thing with any other group, Somalians, Indians here. They make you compete. So what happens is they're so good in the nightlife industry, the restaurant industry, they force others to play fair. In other words, their self-investment from the diaspora or into what they're doing, it forces the market to them, okay? So you can't scam them, so they're less likely to go out of business. They can survive tough times, so it forces the market to come towards them. And anybody who wants to do business in one of their nice spots or one of their nice restaurants, pizza places, what it does is it makes you come to them on their terms, all right? Now, they have leverage. They force the leverage conversation. So in order for you to deal with them, you have to treat them fair. And also, they beat you in the market. If a Ugandan business is not, doing what they're supposed to do, the Indians or Eritreans, quietly, they're gonna cover your territory. And it forces you to respect what they're doing because they are good. Right? If Black Americans don't understand this leverage on other people in Africa, we're always going to be victims. Unfortunately, this is a kumbaya story that will end bad. We must make, listen to what I'm saying, we must make, if it's in Uganda, Ugandan private sector people in the industry cover territory. We must make people in Ghana cover territory. Burkina Faso, we have to compete with the market. Once we compete with the market, we will get leverage. If you don't compete with the market, and if you're at a risk of being scammed, you have no leverage in the market and people treat you poorly. This is the same case of what we're seeing with Dr. Ericana. She can pull this on you because you don't have any leverage, and delineation forces people to respect your group, especially if you're moving as a community in the private sector in a particular niche. Like I said, I see it here in Uganda with the Eritreans, and the niche that they specialize in is nightclubs and restaurants and bars. They make people cover territory, all right? 3, if you force delineation, you have to add value to the other group if you want a collaboration. Now, let me just say this. Again, I worked with an Eritrean business before, very straightforward. Now, Ugandans can be good, but Ugandans are typically more passive aggressive in business, but Eritreans are more straightforward. If I want to deal with any Eritrean business, they force me to add value to them. I cannot work with them without that value addition, or they'll reject it, okay? The issue is that we do not force other groups on the continent of Africa to bring us any value. Now, the Chinese have understood that dealing with Africans or dealing with Jamaicans in the Caribbean. They force people to respect them and give them value. And then after value is exchanged, we can have more parity. But the Black Americans, or even some people in the diaspora, if you're from the Nigerian diaspora, Nigeria, Ghanaian diaspora, you go back to Ghana, Nigeria, and you understand what I'm talking about. If you cannot have a collaboration, if it doesn't add value, you end up leaving disgruntled. And this is for the mechanism. You have to make people add value, and you yourself should also add value. Okay? 4, accountability. The more you delineate, the more you can punish your group. I said that, I kind of alluded that into why it's important to invest in your own community. That person can be put out. All right, I'll give you an example of our private group here that we have in Kinganda. We have our own private group, our diaspora group, but we have some real strict rules. It's not open to the public. It's you know, a few families in there, but we do some excellent business together. And if we find out that somebody is doing something they have no business doing, we remove them and all of their friends. They're not allowed to come to anything, any meetings, nothing. We ban them from the community, right? So we can punish our own. But if you're a foreigner and you're in Ghana or you're in Uganda and somebody scams you, you can't really punish them, but you can punish your own. So you keep out other people who may be, you know, problematic. You punish your own. Now, what you're also doing is people who are good, you're forcing them to bring you value. And if they prove themselves, they can be a part of your family after they prove themselves. And Africa has good people, right? Black Americans got good people. But one thing about Africans is they make you prove yourself. So we have to also make them prove themselves. And then also they have to be in a position where they can be punished. And that is through accountability. They must be playing on a meritocracy standpoint. 5, why must we delineate in Africa? Because everybody else delineates. All Black groups delineates. You would be silly to not delineate when there's Nigerian Independence Day, there's Ghanaian Independence Day, you have Ugandan Independence Day, you have Ugandan dishes. It happens by nature. If you go to Dubai, which I've been, Ugandans are in Dubai, Kenyans are in Dubai, delineation happens by nature. Now, obviously, you're gonna have some friends who are not Ugandan or Kenyan if you're African. And just like me, I'm gonna have some friends who are maybe not Black American, but we all delineate. Asking Black Americans to just join Pan-Africanism and reduce who they are when other people will never reduce who they are is just silly. And there's too much pressure on Black Americans to reduce who they are for the sake of other people to remain who they are. Everybody says, oh, hashtag FBA isn't right or hashtag ADOS isn't right, but go to somebody's Instagram page, you see hashtag Haitian excellence, you see hashtag Nigerian excellence, and I'm all for that. I think that's great. I love to see Black people winning. Hashtag Jamaican excellence, but no, everybody else delineate, no matter what. You will never hardly ever be accepted as one of them, as a Ugandan. I know I will never be accepted fully as a Ugandan, and I'm okay with that. I'm not trying to be Ugandan. So therefore, let me delineate because I've already been delineated by the other group. Other people automatically put you in the cast of delineation, all right? Automatically. They're gonna call you Mzungu, they're gonna call you whatever else, so you might as well delineate yourself. Doesn't mean that you can't collaborate. Delineation is not an end to collaboration. It's just defining boundaries. 6, pointing on to that. Delineation does not equal disrespect. Because I'm delineating doesn't mean that I can't integrate, but I can only integrate or collaborate when there is value. If you don't want to give me value, I will stay within my own community until you want to give me value that expands our community. And then I can return that value to you, okay? But if you do not, I cannot deal with you. I cannot deal with you based on charity, based on a Wakanda dream. I can only deal with you what's practical because you only want to deal with me on base what's practical, okay? 7, familiarity. Working with your own community increases speed. This is something that's important when you're dealing with Ugandans, for an example. I work here in the private sector, and Ugandans do things much differently than Black Americans do. Eritreans do things much differently than Black Americans do, but they understand how they want to do it. Indians understand how they want to do it. Somalians understand how they want to do it. The more that we can delineate in Africa, and we're doing our own thing in Africa, we increase speed. We increase a lot of transparency. We increase clarity. African business or entrepreneurship, from what I can see, there's not a lot of training in it. There's not a lot of speed in it. It's not a lot of systematic thinking involved. It's a lot of linear-based thinking. So for an American to deal with a Ugandan in the same business setting, there's going to be a lot of bumps in the roads because we see the private sector differently. But the reason why Eritreans or Somalians or Indians or Ethiopians can do so well in countries is because they understand each other and they understand how they want to run the business. So speed is there. So the market has to cover ground to catch them because they're already going in a way. Working with Ugandans, it slows down the pace for me as an operator who's fast, right? I like to get things done fast. And so Ugandans have to adjust to my speed. But if I had another Black American and I could just close deals, then it would be easier. We'd be further in the process, but it takes time to get them to adjust it to the way I want to do things. So your projects would actually develop faster. This is what the Chinese do. The Chinese, they come over by themselves and they're obviously delineating, but they're getting things done because they're not trying to integrate their business ideas into somebody else's group, right? Also, Ugandans and what I've seen in Africans have a lot of bureaucracy in the business world. It doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. I just don't prefer that. I prefer fast-paced things, okay? It's just what it is. This was not made out of hatred. As you guys know, I love Uganda. I made some of the best relationships in my life in Africa. Kenya, I love it. Nigeria, I love it. While I don't love everything about Africa, I love the most about it. But the reality is I've tried assimilating. I've tried getting into, the culture. I've tried to be more humble. And every time I've tried it that way, I've gotten taken advantage of. And many other Black Americans have been taken advantage too, and other Africans and other Black British. The main thing is the groups that come here and scale do not do it our way. They force respect in relationships with locals, and they force respect relationships abroad. This is how everybody does it. And it forces other groups to give you value. If we're gonna deal with Ugandans, we must give them value. But Ugandans must also give us value. If we're working with Rwandese, if we're working with Caribbeans, if we're working with other groups, we must give value, but we must force them to also give us value. And if we do that, then we will have less infighting. We will have less criticisms. We will actually come to the table more with more to offer. And then we get things done quicker and we get things done better. But if we don't, we will have one side of the table of the community feeling like, they were taken advantage of, whether it be the African side or the Black American side or the diaspora side. We all leave together with a level of chagrin. But the more we delineate and invest in our own communities, then we actually come to the table with more to give the other community. And then we have those relationships based on respect and based on leverage, okay? Meaning that if I come to your community, I have something, because if you mistreat me, you're afraid of the numbers that I have. And if I mistreat you, I'm afraid of the numbers that you have. So it makes me respect you and deliver on everything that I said I'm gonna do. And all the other groups, once they know that I'm dealing with the Ghanaians, and I promise them something and I don't do it, if my group is a good group, they're gonna force me to do it. And somebody might step up and say, hey, Ghana group, I'm sorry about what our guy did, but we can fix that. That's called respect. It's called parity. It's called equality. it's a better idea than you just coming to Africa, trying to jump into the Ugandan community, or trying to jump into the Kenyan community, or the Nigerian community, or the Rwandese community, and then adopting a whole bunch of stuff, and then you may or may not get what you're looking for because you don't have leverage. You have nice people in all these places, but that doesn't mean people are gonna give you the respect that you look for. And most people that I have met feel slighted when they do it the opposite way. When they come here, they try to show love, they try to be respectful. You gotta understand that many people in this part of the world may or may not have experienced somebody showing love and showing respect. Where they come from, it might not be the most important thing. Now, obviously, people can also give you things back, right? And I'm a witness to that. But ultimately, the only thing that people respect around the world is leverage. And Black Americans need leverage in Africa. We don't need no Wakanda song. We're gonna have our sandals off and living amongst African gods and all that stuff and in African land. No, we need actual solutions, transparencies. You need tangible things, and you need respect on both sides. And if we're not gonna get respect on both sides, we don't need to deal with each other because it's gonna be a bad situation. We should only deal with each other when we have something to offer each other out of respect. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy Oshidu Jackson back at it again. Another episode of King Ganda. I'm out.